sir has always been telling us about how we need to go with answer writing, and one of the main advice of sir was that not overloading your answer with thinkers. Instead of that, what we need to do is we need to address the demand of the question.
And in answer writing mode, what were the struggles you initially faced? If students could relate to that struggle also,
Yes.
because everyone face almost similar kind of struggles. What were your struggles?
And I used to show my answers regularly to sir to get to know that what am I missing. And sometimes sir has given me a feedback that okay, these answers are good for beginners. So I used to understand I need to write it in a way, a more in-depth analysis. Answer लिखने से मत डरो. Start writing your answers. Read them, let them be very bad. In the initial phases, your answers would go bad, because no one here is an expert. Then even in my notes, I used to write in the back side the questions that you used to give. And those answers, when I see right now, I was like, okay, sir meant that I have written good as a beginner, but now I can see that how good it was.
I am feeling extremely happy to have Pranav with me. Pranav, congratulations once again. And please come. And I'm sure many beginners would look up to you and would want to know how did you manage to get this prestigious rank? What exactly did you do? And starting with basics, Pranav, how did you begin your sociology preparation? If you could write the strategy for beginners and you could explain the same to the students.
So speaking about my beginning of sociology, when I first shifted to Delhi in July 2022, like this would be the case with many of us, that we are initially confused about how should we begin with the subject. So we try to read few NCRTs or everything. But what I had decided was that optional being such an important subject, I decided to join a good coaching so that I could have a basic grasp on the subject upon which I could build upon my content. So that's when I came across with Nishat Sir, and then I joined his coaching. So if I would to suggest you a strategy to begin with the subject, if you do not plan on joining a coaching, then you can start with the basic NCRTs to have a basic understanding of the subject, and then build upon the books that we usually refer to. So for paper 1, I would be referring you to, like, for the initial topics, I would be suggesting you to go through Harolumbus. For thinkers, you would be always going through Ritzer and other things. For me, I had specifically referred to Nishat Sir notes for my basic preparation, for all my basic content, and then built up upon the content through these books that I have just mentioned. You can also refer to Essential Sociology by Sangwan Sir, which is also a very good book. But I would suggest to you that you have an excellent grip over the subject. And for this, I would suggest you that the main thing that we need to do is PYQs. So one of the basic things for firstly, what you would be doing is the syllabus. And secondly, it is the PYQs. So these are the basic bedrocks on which your preparation would be based. This is because rote memorizing the syllabus would help you understand what you need to know from the newspapers, or even in the local life, what we need to observe. So your interest in the subject would slowly start growing once you attend a coaching, or once you start studying into the depths of the subject. You would understand that you're slowly gaining interest in the subject as well. This is because sociology also happens to be one of the easiest subjects, plus it happens to be a subject that we see in our everyday lives. Like there is work and economic life. We are able to see so many gig workers right now because of our interaction with Uber, Ola, or Swiggy, Zomato. So we can see their problems in real life. So this is the beauty of the subject, that you can get to know by watching around yourself. Even the topics like religion, wherein we tend to have a cursory understanding of religion, that we pray to some god. But when you dive into the depths of religion, you get to know that how it has arisen, or if we see Marxist theory, then how it plays a conflicting role. So it is these things that will build your interest in the subject. And for that, after you are done with your syllabus and PYQs, then it would be answer writing. So firstly, how would you approach the syllabus? So we have two papers, that is paper 1 and 2. And you can see that the second paper has been increasingly on focusing on the current issues of the issues, or the application oriented issues which we see right now. But what we saw in 2023 as well as 2024 is that even paper 1 has been asking some questions that are related to conceptual and application side. For example, we can see that in paper 1 in 2023, the question was historical materialism and its application to understand the real life problems, or even the questions on gig workers. So what we need to do is, once you're done reading with some basic material, which can be your coaching notes or anything, you need to dive deep into the PYQs, because herein you would be able to find that there is some, what depth do we need to recover, what depth we need to read. Secondly, which topics to be more taken into consideration. For example, even if we see the thinkers topic, we can see that Karl Marx or Max Weber have been asked continuously, whereas a thinker like Mead would be asked every 2 years. And this trend would also be, you would be knowing only through the use of PYQs. So sometimes if it happens that you are on lesser time, then what I would suggest is, like, go through the trends and then understand that this thinker I have to prepare 100%. This thinker, even if I have a little bit understanding, I can go through this thinker and I can answer it. But yes, if right now you have time, you should definitely go into the depths of the subject. So these would be the main things that you would be going through. And then comes the answer writing part. So Sir has always been telling us about how we need to go with answer writing. And one of the main advice of Sir was that not overloading your answer with thinkers. Because right now we see that many will be obsessed with writing 10 thinkers in the answer, or every point would be substantiated by a thinker. Instead of that, what we need to do is we need to address the demand of the question. And this thing would be done, you will be able to address the demand once you know the topic through the core, and then you would go through your notes multiple times. Then you would be able to address the demand. And in the optional, what I would suggest you is that get your answers checked as well with respect to how you have written the answer. This is because we sometimes know everything, but we aren't able to express it in our words. So once you get to know what is asked and how am I responding to it, it would be immensely helpful. For example, even Sir in his classes used to give us PYQs to write after every topic, or there were routine tests, and I used to show my answers regularly to Sir to get to know that what am I missing. And sometimes Sir has given me a feedback that, okay, these answers are good for beginners. So I used to understand, okay, I need to write it in a way more depth or more in-depth analysis. So these are the three things that you will get through. And for speaking about paper 2, so paper 2, usually you won't find much content in a single book. So I would suggest is that if you have your class notes, very good. Otherwise, go through IGNOU modules. And what I saw in IGNOU modules also is that even the MA Sociology notes are not overburdened with thinkers. It just has a clear description of the topic, and the topic has been lucidly explained. So what I felt is that if we go through this manner, that we are not overloading our answers to, we would be getting good marks. Like in even in 2023 attempt, I had 270 marks in sociology, wherein I had 126 in paper 1 and 144 in paper 2. And I can suggest you, I can tell you with 100% conviction that I had not written many thinkers in this paper in my 2023 attempt, yet 144 happens to be a good score. So try to build upon this, and after you have done with all these three and you have completed your answers on every topic, then you would be doing your micro notes. And these notes would not be a single iteration. For example, initially you would be doing your micro notes uh, like 3-4 months before the prelims. Then after once again you have written tests, then again you would be making them smaller, because with each and every revision you would be grasping more parts of the topic, and then you would need very less keywords to just revise the entire topic. So just in iterations, I'd suggest that keep building on your micro notes, so that when you go to your paper, every topic has been condensed into 3 to 4 pages. So what this would help you is that on your D day, that is on your mains day, when you have your both sociology papers, you're carrying this smaller bundle of notes to the exam hall. You're able to revise them even while you're sitting in the playground or wherever they make you sit during the mains, and you would be able to write it well. So this happens to be my major strategy. with these main pillars, that is syllabus, PYQs, and answer writing. Thinking about another aspect, that is integration of current affairs or content enrichment. So in content enrichment, what I can suggest you is that there are 3 to 4 ways in doing this. First is our newspapers. This you will be doing only when you are through with your syllabus as well as PYQs. Otherwise, what will happen is anything that comes on religion, you would be putting it in your notes. So don't do that blind thing. Have a well justified or have a good grasp of the syllabus as well as the PYQs, and then go through your newspapers, because then you would be writing crisp and relevant content. Second, content enrichment would be happening through the current affair magazines, which we usually go through. You can see it in your the society part of the magazines, whichever you refer to, everyone would provide a good content. Thirdly, the content enrichment would happen through topper copies. So this can become a sometimes neglected area, that we don't see the topper copies. We rely on the answers that have been given by the coaching classes. Those answers are no doubt very good. But when you compare your answers with the answers written by the toppers, you would understand that in 7 minutes, this is the content that is written. Because any coaching class would not write it in 7 minutes, but they will deeply research and then give you the content. So a perfect heuristic, what we see as Weber's ideal type or anything that is comparison device, then the perfect ideal type would be a topper answer here. Because then you would understand that this is what is expected out of me when I'm writing in 7 minutes or 10 minutes. So this is one of the most areas, and not just for the not just for his content, but this should get updated in your notes as well. For example, I have used Kasturi Panda ma'am's copies extensively because of the amount of thinkers she used to write in her answers as well as the different perspectives. So Kasturi Panda ma'am was, I think, of 2022 batch. So her answer copies are very good. Then other 2 3 toppers, I'm not able to recollect names right now, but I'll be sharing them later as we go on. So this is there. And thirdly would be the other books that you read with respect to sociology. That is, if you have joined a coaching, then these would be your content enrichment books. That is Harolumbus and Healed, or the Blue Harolumbus as well. Secondly, Nitin Sangwan, Essential Sociology is there. And any other notes that you find. But try to understand that all these would be after a basic reading, basic knowledge,
PYQ.
and PYQ. Because these are the things that will help you differentiate your answer. But answer differentiation is a different part, and answering is a different part. And for answering, you need to know the basics, and the basics to a very depth understanding. Because the optional demands from you that you have a postgraduate level of understanding. That is what the UPSC demands. So we need to be very thorough with both of these. And one of the other things that I found very useful, which is a very unconventional one, which I came across, is that the economic survey. So in the economic survey also, there are a few topics wherein the social aspects are given. For example, there is a topic on gig workers or any other thing that we find from the syllabus. So here also the syllabus part is what I'm addressing. Know the syllabus so you can extract content from everywhere. So economic survey also would give you a few chapters do have a mention of thinkers as well as their theories and newer keywords. So all these 3 things would be provided to you if you go through the economic survey, and this too would come in the later part of your preparation and not just when you dive into it.
So I'm sure that what Pranav has just described is very much understandable to all of you guys, because he's making it very simple and to the point. The best thing which Pranav just shared with us, and something that I will always remember, is that answer differentiation and answering, both are two different things. Okay. Sometimes, in order to make our answers very different from others, what we write is different and not answer, right?
Exactly.
So that is why answering के ऊपर मजबूत रहना और डिफरेंट के ही चक्कर में ना भागना इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. वो डिफरेंस जानना भी जरूरी है इन दोनों के बीच में. एंड दूसरी चीज जो प्रणव ने बोली, जो कि अगेन विच इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, कि व्हेन यू राइट आंसर्स इन द गिवन टाइम, you have hardly 8 minutes for a 10 marker question or 12 minutes for a 20 mark question. But if you refer coaching materials, PYQ books, there the content is well researched, as he said, and they may have taken their own sweet amount of time to compile all of that for you. But to be very honest, even if we launch our own PYQ book, I will still not refer any of my students to go through that, because I know how those answers are going to be very different from the answer which can be organically reproduced in the given time and constraints that we have on the D day. And the issue is that when students are referring to coaching material PYQ books, they are not able to understand that is notes. Again, more of it is notes, less of it is answer. And more mainly, you should also understand that those are still 2 pages long answer, when in reality, if you try to write the same, it will take you on paper at least 4 pages. So that is not really practical for you to follow that.
Sir, I'd like
Yeah.
to disturb you for a minute just
Yeah, sure.
that your framework of answering as well, the way you tell it. So here is a PYQ booklet of any classroom, content, content, content. Here also content, 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 and everything is in paragraphs. But what I followed particularly, this change you have made in my answer writing is, if a question demands three different things, putting it in larger headings and then addressing the part. That is making it crystal clear to the examiner that I am writing this part here, X part here, Y part here, and Z part here. So this is what I have taken from you,
Very nice,
and
very
like
nice.
I have been writing in this way in GS as well and in my optional as well.
So that means what we need to understand from this is that you need to break the question into parts. As many parts as possible, as many parts as desired or demanded by the question itself. If in a question you can see 3 keywords which can be broken down according to the demand, then break them down into 3 parts. And how you break it? You put a box for each part, designated box, and fill that box with relevant information according to that box only, and keep making this until you arrive at the demand or until you complete the demand. Okay. And uh, this approach, as Pranav clearly said, he followed in GS as well. So that means you are saying that you have followed same approach for both GS and sociology.
Yes.
So when people think that for sociology we need to follow different approach, uh, we can clearly say that you can't follow different approach just because it is a subject different altogether. You need to understand eventually both of the papers are going to be evaluated by examiners who know that you are writing competitive examination. They are not looking for expertise on your part in those areas. So you can keep the same structure, only content will vary, the jargons will vary, or the demand will vary, but structure can be the same.
Yes.
So, Pranav, let us start with some of the questions with respect to the things that you have mentioned, which are very important things. Starting with the syllabus, which is number one. You must know the syllabus. Then going to PYQs, you must know the PYQs. And then you start writing answers. Of course, only after you have in-depth analysis of the PYQ, you know the trends, and if you have also good understanding of the concepts that you have learned. Only after that, you can go to answer writing mode. And in answer writing mode, what were the struggles you initially faced? If students could relate to that struggle also,
Yes.
because everyone face almost similar kind of struggles. What were your struggles?
So one of the basic struggle was to write an answer. Like we have that inertia कि क्या मैं अच्छा लिख पाऊंगा? Would I be able to even write? Would I be able to fill the 2 pages? Because when you are a beginner, you have not written anything, and suddenly writing a 10 marker or even a 20 marker, like right now it is 3 pages. Earlier it was 4 pages for paper one. So initially, even writing an answer in a desired time limit was a challenge for me. So I started with it when you used to give assignments to us in class. That's the time when my inertia broke, and then I started writing. And once I started writing, the fear got lesser and lesser. So what I would give you as a first advice is, answer लिखने से मत डरो. Start writing your answers. Read them, let them be very bad. In the initial phases, your answers would go bad because no one here is an expert. Even when, if I get to share my notes, I'll be sharing later. Then even in my notes, I used to write in the back side the questions that you used to give. And if those answers, when I see right now, I was like, okay, sir meant that I have written good as a beginner, but now I can see that how good it was. So just remember that, don't have that feeling कि मैं बाद में ही लिखूंगा, or when the mains arrives then I will write, or after prelims I will write. Start off with answer writing as soon as possible. And second thing is the demand part. So once you break your fear, then what comes is the demand part. And here also many of you would be facing a challenge. What we tend to do, or what I used to do, is that if there is some sentence in the start and then there is a question like, Marx sees religion as the opium of the masses, elucidate on how Marx's opinion on religion has helped in current sociological theories of religion. So what we tend to do is that we tend to address only the second part because we feel that only that is the question, and we tend to completely miss out on the first sentence of the question. So try to read the question properly and break down into subparts. Like sir will be telling you this many times, that the question breaking down into X, Y, Z. Any question, try to break down, try to encircle the parts and the keyword. So keyword, like sir also tells, that many times the keyword won't make much of a difference until it is critically examined, wherein you would be highlighting the critical part a bit more. So second part is that going to the demand of the question. So only two suggestions with respect to answer writing: go for it. Because without this, you can't improve. And secondly, once you go for it, then get it evaluated. Because improve इसके बिना नहीं होगा. This and this. And once they start coming evaluated, implement the feedback. Sometimes what happens is that we think that we have written a very good answer, and the like the person who has checked might have felt that it's not a very good answer. Sometimes it can be like the invigilator might have a different perception, but sometimes it can be the case that you really haven't addressed the core demand of the question. You just wrote your notes. Don't write your notes. Write what the question asks. It is not your notes that are asked. It is the question that is asked that has the answer. The answer can contain notes, but the answer is not equal to notes. So this is what we have to get along with. Like we have to take the feedback. Though there it is said that take a feedback with pinch of a salt. Take it with a pinch of a salt, but not just that. नहीं नहीं इन्होंने तो खराब ही check किया. Don't go for it. Be open to suggestions. Be open to feedback because उसके बिना improvement नहीं आएगा. So just four suggestions. Like my suggestion is start writing. This is the most initial step. Day one से लिखने की कोई जरूरत नहीं है. You can do it when you are comfortable, or like whenever you are taught any topic. And this is not the syllabus wala 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Not these topics. Any subtopic of it also. Like if Marx's historical materialism has been taught, or Weber's bureaucracy has been taught, this can be taken as a topic. Once you know bureaucracy, try to know the PYQs of bureaucracy, write answers on these, and then write answer on whichever test series that you are following, but use this sequence. And this is what I mean by topic. Don't wait for entire Weber to get over, then only I'll write Weber. Don't wait for Marx to get over and then only I'll write Marx. So start with answer writing. So it is not necessary that you write every day, but try being in the habit of writing. At least on Sundays, Saturday, Sundays, give it for your optional, because it would help you in the longer run. Because this is the paper wherein maximum differentiation will come. It is here in GS 1 to 4. Everyone would be having marks, any serious aspirant would be having marks in the range of 90 to 110, 120. This is the range at least for 1 to 3. Case 4, you have a big vacancy, like you can go from 70 to 140. And similar is the thing with optional. You could be stuck at 220, you could be at 250, 270 as my case last time, or you can be 300 plus. And what I mean by this is all these scores are achievable, especially this one. And this is the potential of your optional, that anyone who scores 250, you have a 50 plus marks lead. That is, it can take you from the bottom of the list to a very good service that could be of your choice. So never neglect your optional preparation because of some fear of anything, be it optional, your answer writing skills, your content, or anything. Don't have that fear.
Very nice. So, so just to let you guys know, Pranav had scored 270 last year. Okay, and he missed the list by 13 marks. And I'm sure that he must have gotten very decent marks, keeping the cutoff this year in perspective. We don't know the marks as of yet, but I'm sure whenever it comes out, it will be quite decent, way above than average. That is why he could get this prestigious rank. He has made very important point that while writing answer, don't reproduce your notes. Now, let me make this point more clear by giving you example. What does he mean, and what do we mean by that? Okay, suppose the question is, what is social fact? Okay, you know that this kind of question is not going to come, but let us suppose this is a question as simple as what is social fact, or write short note on social fact. Okay, मतलब कभी एक वक्त था जब ऐसे पूछते थे, write short note on social fact. In this question, the notes and demand both are same, right? In this
Yes.
question, notes is equal to demand.
Yes.
क्योंकि सब कुछ लिख दो, उसने ये कहा है सब कुछ लिख दो, क्वेश्चन नहीं है बोला व्हाट इज सोशल फैक्ट, यानी सब कुछ डेफिनेशन से लेके टाइप्स तक से उसके एग्जांपल एटसेट्रा एटसेट्रा. बट अगर क्वेश्चन है हाउ दिस ईयर्स क्वेश्चन, ओके, हाउ सुसाइड रेट is a social fact. You know, this is question.
Yes, sir.
Now here notes can help you definitely, but notes is not going to be equal to demand. From the notes you will extract the points which can hit the demand. That means if we go by what Pranav is saying, something which he just explained in the last slide, he clearly said, break the question into different parts, check the keywords. Suicide rate is one keyword. Social fact is another keyword. There are total 2 components in this question. So you break the question into 2 parts, assuming that there are 2 pages, 10 marker question. So you start with social fact and definition of suicide rate, and then you explain how suicide rate is a social fact in this point. And then briefly one critique. Okay, that means you don't have to keep 1 page reserved for criticism here when it is not even required. The question is clearly saying how suicide rate is a social fact. So no point in writing critique for 1 full page. 1 box or 2-3 points are more than sufficient. So in this question, notes is not going to be equal to demand. So you should always understand most of the students are reproducing notes. They should always get it evaluated, as he said. Only then the other person can tell you what is right, where are you going right, where are you going wrong. Okay. So Pranav, let us understand some of the other aspects of our preparation. When you start writing answers to the questions, sometimes you may come across a question which you have never read about, never studied, never heard of. Like last year, there was a question, David Morgan.
Yes.
Okay. So how do you deal with such question? What is your strategy with respect to such kind of things? How do you manage?
So such questions like, yes, David Morgan's question, or in the earlier year, Leela
Because
Dubey's
people
seed and
discuss
earth.
these questions more than the
Yes,
static.
sir. Yes, sir. So one of the main strategies when you do not know the question is that you know the other questions. So be very through with them, write them. First, what I did last year also, I skipped the questions entirely in the first time. Like I did not attempt that question earlier. When I was done with my paper, then the question said something about family practices. So it was not just that the thinker was asked. Here the key question mentioned something about family practices. Now when you are at the end, you can try to describe, like write the definition of family or the family practices that you know about and try to connect them. But don't go overboard with writing such answer. Like don't go overboard with this habit that you write anything in your answers. Write the basic thinker. For family, we have a definition by G.P. Murdoch. You can go with that. And then with the family practices, impact. But if there is a question like the year earlier in 2022, I think it was Leela Dubey's Seed and Earth was asked.
Yeah.
So here, if I would have been in any in that place, I would have skipped the question because though there was no use in writing about it.
Yes.
Because we do not know anything about that. So like basically what I mean to say is that make your other content so strong that this question won't make a big difference. And secondly, if you are attempting it, don't attempt it in your main answering. Attempt it later. Also, the optional paper gives us an opportunity to select questions. So be very wise in selecting the questions. This ability you will get only and only when you write a test. Because when you are writing PYQs, you are not attempting the entire paper. But in your test, whatever test series or a paper that you pick up, you would be having 1 to 5 and like the other questions. Like first and fifth would be compulsory, and then 6th, 7th, 8th, 2, 3, 4. So herein you have to develop the ability to be able to select question. Be decisive, be very decisive. If such a question is in these questions which are optional, that is 2, 3, 4, 6, 7 and 8. These are our optional questions. So if the question happens to be in any of these, then select the other question where you know something. But if it is in 1 or 5, which would be the compulsory questions, then if there is a keyword like this, then write about it. If there is nothing like this, just skip the question, is what my suggestion would be.
So, very important point, selection of question. Many students, I think, barely think about the idea of selection of questions. That does create lot of difference. Trust me on that, it does create. Because many a times I have seen many students making wrong choices that day. They knew the other question very well, but they just thought they could write better answer to that question which they opted, but they ended up writing that answer. Now, how do you make selection, Pranav? What is the criteria of choosing this question over that question?
So one of the main things in choosing questions is firstly your knowledge. And here, trust me that if you know, like there are three sub questions in each question. Like for example, the second question will have the three sub questions, and let's consider the third question that has three sub questions. Two will be 20 markers, one will be 10 marker. Now, if this question you have average knowledge on all three of them, and in this you have average knowledge of or no knowledge of one and more knowledge of these two, then I would suggest is go for this question because it is you don't know how the examiner would score you in these two.
Yeah.
If you have average knowledge of all these three questions, you would end up scoring at least some marks in each of the three. So this will have a better ROI. And secondly, the most important part is this selection or this decision making ability would come only when you write tests beforehand. If you think that on your D-Day you would be able to make a choice that I'll be going in the mains paper and then I'll be selecting questions. अभी तो टेस्ट सीरीज मैंने ऐसे ही लिख दी, but I'll be going in the paper and then I'll be trying to make a decision. आपका मे बी इट वुड हैपन दैट यू वोंट बी एबल टू डू दैट वेरी वेल. So I would suggest is that write tests earlier itself. Have the ability, have the practice of selecting questions earlier. ये जब आप करोगे तब आपको टेस्ट सीरीज में ही रियलाइज होगा कि ओके, I ended up choosing this question, but if I would have chosen this question, I would have probably scored 3 or 4 marks more. And trust me, 3 or 4 marks make a huge difference. I have missed the list by 13 marks last time. So a 3-4 mark jump here and a 6-7 mark jump here or there would have gotten me into the list at least. So never even question the value of even 0.5 marks. So these are the both things, that your knowledge plus your practice. These two aspects would be much more important when you take such a choice.
I'll ask you some other questions also with respect to this preparation. Now, prelims is also going to come in a month. You have managed to clear prelims 2 times.
Okay? Yes, sir.
What is working for you? What do you think? Because people are now getting very scared by prelims mocks as well.
Yes,
the
sir.
kind of score that they get in prelims mocks.
Yes, sir.
So, if you can suggest anything, what worked for you in prelims and how did you manage mocks results?
Yes. So firstly, what you need to know about the prelims is that static is the kingmaker. Though your current affairs help you make a difference, help you eliminate some questions, it is your static and your multiple revisions of static that would help you get through the prelims. So your economy portion, firstly polity, you would find more questions on the static part. These would be linked to current. That if ethics committee is in the news, you would be getting a question on ethics committee. But you need to know that you have the basic understanding of the ethics committee. Secondly, are chapters like modern history, art and culture, ancient medieval art and culture. These are the areas wherein you would be getting static questions, and PYQs would be your best guide here. कि कौन सा टॉपिक डेप्थ में करना है. फॉर एग्जाम्पल पॉलिटी, you can't skip the precedent chapter. It should be on your fingertips. Whereas any other thing like the mains part wale subject topics like voting behavior or federalism, these you need not revise so many times. So even while you revise with a priority. Secondly, once static is done, secondly, your current affairs, whichever you have followed the magazines or anything, be sure that you revise them also. And don't go overboard only with CA, because this is what will fetch you the rank. Even geography we can add here. There is no current question that you would be expecting from geography. And what we saw in the recent trends is that NCRTs have been a source of direct question in geography. Or even the environment part. What we say is that environment has been coming only from current affairs. But if you go into the depth of it, some of the questions are coming from current. But some of the questions, if you have static knowledge, you would be able to do the current question. So this is what I'm saying, that go for the static part very well, revise it very well, then come your CA. And secondly, with respect to your mock feedback, there would be some mocks where you would be scoring lesser marks. So here and also, it is your knowledge of the prelims PYQs that would help you understand कि यार ये मॉक का जो क्वेश्चन है, ऐसा क्वेश्चन कभी प्रीलिम्स में पूछा जाएगा या नहीं पूछा जाएगा. This will create the necessary strength in your head. हम ऐसे सोचेंगे कि यार ये यूएन की ये बॉडी का ये क्वेश्चन आ गया, वो किसी को नहीं आ रहा है if it comes. And try to trust me that if you know the basic PYQs to this, you would make a guess that ऐसे क्वेश्चन तो यूपीएससी नहीं पूछेगा. So this is how you evaluate a question from your mock. And one thing I would suggest is how to evaluate your mock tests. It is not about your score. Score won't matter in your mock. Put 0 as me. Like, do have a fair idea of your scores, but what you do is you analyze your mock. And by analyze, I mean कि कौन से ऐसे क्वेश्चन है जो आपने रिवीजन की कमी की वजह से गलत किए. ये जो क्वेश्चंस है, ये आपको एक्यूरेसी ऑलमोस्ट 100% तक लिया है. You don't have to go wrong in this. Secondly would be the questions wherein you were able to eliminate two options and दो के बीच में आपको चॉइस करना था, फिर भी आपका गलत हुआ. Then write down your line of thought कि मैंने ये सोचा था, I need to improve on this. And one thing is that your conceptual questions, ये कभी नहीं गलत करने. These three are your main questions because these will get you to almost 80-85 marks. अब बचते हैं वो क्वेश्चंस जिसके आप एक ही ऑप्शन एलिमिनेट कर पा रहे हो या फिर जिसके बारे में आपको कुछ भी नहीं पता. Herein logic would play the game for you and your knowledge of PYQs, because PYQs से हमें कुछ ट्रेंड्स पता चलते हैं which you would be even getting on your YouTube videos कि exact figure is usually wrong, or if there is some keyword some, then it happens to be correct, और a scientific principle के applications है, तो there might be a case in future कि ये application हो सकता है. तो these questions you need to take a risk. तो अगर ये भी questions में आपने एक educated risk लिया, by educated risk I mean PYQ, logic, trend, ये basis पे, so this score would go to like even 100 plus. So a benefit of such a score is that जिस दिन prelims हुआ उस दिन आपको पता है कि I need to study for the mains. Otherwise there would be a perpetual anxiety of 14 days कि करूं या ना करूं, करूं या ना करूं, whereas your competitor has been studying for those 14 days. So don't miss and don't just be fearful of the mock कि इसमें 60 ही मार्क्स आ गए. Try to understand कि इसमें मैंने analytical कितने गलत किए हैं, revision deficit की वजह से कितने गलत हुए, easier कौन से गलत हुए. So try to analyze these parts and not just the score कि यार 60 आया, 70 आया, 80 आया. That does not matter at the end of the day. It is on your prelims day that what you perform would matter and not these scores. So like I remember when in my time I had given a mock like 15-20 days before my actual exam and I had scored like around 65-70 marks. But what I was sure is that इसमें जो भी सवाल पूछे गए वो इतने टफ लेवल के या तो आएंगे नहीं, और जो मुझे नहीं आए उन पे मैंने काम भी किया. आई डिड नॉट जस्ट ब्लेम द मॉक कि नहीं यार ये बहुत डिफिकल्ट है. तो ट्राई टू गेट कि इसमें से अच्छा सवाल आपने कौन से गलत किए.
बहुत अच्छा पॉइंट, बहुत ही अच्छा पॉइंट प्रणव ने अपने तरीके से बताया है. और क्या बोल रहे हैं वो कि आपके अगर लो मार्क्स भी आते हैं मॉक्स में तो आप बस ये मत देखो कि आपके मार्क्स कम रह गए, सिलेक्शन कैसे होएगा. आप ये भी तो देखो कि क्या जो पूछे गए हैं सवाल उस लेवल के सवाल ही यूपीएससी पूछते आ रहे हैं या फिर वो कुछ अलग ट्रैक पे चले गए हैं. आपको इतना ध्यान रखना है कि पीवाईक्यू से बाहर बहुत चीजें हो सकती हैं, बट अगर वो पूरा ही पेपर पीवाईक्यू से बाहर लग रहा है आपको और तो आपके नंबर खराब आ रहे हैं तो घबराने की बात नहीं है. बट यस, if the mock paper have mix of PYQ type questions and some other, take learning from those questions which are very much PYQ like but you could not solve, ताकि वो मिस ना हो आपसे in your attempt. तो आप मॉक्स के स्कोर से मत घबराओ, मॉक्स को एज अ लर्निंग टूल यूज करो. दैट ओके, आई शुड हैव नोन दिस पार्ट, मैं कैसे स्किप कर गया, ये तो मैंने पढ़ा भी था और पीवाईक्यू में भी आया है. ओके, तो दिस इज वेरी गुड लर्निंग प्रणव, ये आपने अच्छा किया बता के, क्योंकि इन्होंने खुद भी बोला इनके भी 60-65 नंबर कभी रहे हैं. अभी कल ही आई मेट अ स्टूडेंट who told me that he scored 55 marks in a mock just last week, so he is feeling low on confidence, not thinking of appearing for prelims this year. मैंने कहा नहीं 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 भाई, ये कोई वो क्राइटेरिया नहीं है कि आपके मॉक में 55 आए तो आपके कैसे उस दिन 100 आएंगे, ये तो बहुत गलत तरीका है. So I think we have sufficiently addressed the question. I thank all of you for joining us online. You took time out of your uh, preparation, very precious time. And Pranav, at the same time, he's also going back to Maharashtra, Satara, and then he'll be coming back to Delhi. Yes, within 2-3 days. Within 2-3 days, then he'll be coming back. Okay. So with this, we'll conclude session, and thank you so much, Pranav. It was really nice to have you with us. I hope most of the students got maximum benefit out of this session, and I also hope they implement whatever they have learned, and not just wait for another session of topper with any other topper. Okay, you should also keep implementing those things. ऐसा नहीं होता कि आप बस इकट्ठा करते जाओ चीजों को, है ना. और ऐसा भी नहीं होता कि सबसे लेते जाना है। इट इज लाइक न्यूज़पेपर, कितने पढ़ेंगे, कहाँ तक पढ़ेंगे, कुछ पॉइंट आपको खुद डिसाइड करना पड़ता है कि यहाँ से मेरी अच्छी लर्निंग होगी, ये वाला पॉइंट अच्छा था मेरे लिए। So with this, we conclude. Thank you so much, guys.